Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cindy. If you didn't watch my other videos before, I am a social worker working and living in Melbourne, Australia for almost 10 years. I came to Australia in February 2017 and I received my skilled migration permanent residency back in October 2020. So I started this channel to share my immigration experience with you guys and my experience of international student and working and living in Australia as a new arrival immigrant. Hopefully my experience can be helpful for you. And today I decided to make a video to share some of the things that I like about living in Australia. As an immigrant and also as a Chinese person, I was born and raised in China and moved to Australia when I was 23 years old. So here are just some of my personal experience and my personal preference, I guess. So first one, as a Chinese person living in Australia, the things I like the most is the small time difference. We know there are countries you live that has such a big time difference with China. So I have some friends who moved to America who's living or studying in America, and the time difference is almost night and day. 10 hours, 12 hours. It's like when my parents got up in China, I'm about to go to sleep. So, but living in Australia, the time difference is actually very small. Where I live, Melbourne, or if you live in Sydney, the time difference is about 2 or 3 hours depending on different time of the year. If you live in Perth, Western Australia, Perth is actually on the same time zone as most of China. So you would have actually no communication issues if you want to connect with your friends back home, contacting your parents, if there's any emergency or anything happens, you can actually contact them, and it's very easy to calculate what date, what time they are because we're almost in the same time zone. And the second is I like the Medicare system they have here. I know there are lots of controversies about Medicare, about the free healthcare Australian government provides. Once you receive your permanent residency, you are eligible to apply for Medicare. Basically, Medicare is like a universal health care the government provides. There are some GP clinics that are bulk billing. You can walk in and have an appointment with the GP with no out-of-pocket cost from you. So the government will pay for your visit. And there are treatments in public hospitals. Most of them are called bulk billing. Bulk billing means it's covered by your Medicare. And I've heard stories from my colleagues who gave birth to a baby in a public hospital, and the only thing cost them was the parking ticket because the husband had to pay for parking in hospital. So here are really some really good benefits if you're considering moving here or studying or living in Australia. And the third one is the government-assisted parental leave. I know different countries has different definitions and different opinions of maternal leave, parental leave. In Australia, the government actually provides about 28 weeks of parental leave can be shared by 2 parents, which means the government will pay you a certain amount of money. Looks like a salary. It might be a little bit lower than your day-to-day job salary, but it is still some nice assistance that provides a bit of financial support to new parents. And the fourth one is the nature. I love the nature here. Obviously, coming from China, we love being pale. We put sunscreen on everything. Sunscreen is still 100% a necessity living in Australia because the UV rate is really high here. But I do enjoy the scenery of going to a beautiful beach, take my dogs for a walk on a dog-friendly beach, And I love going to the national parks. The Dandenong
其实也
Ranges in
看不出来
Melbourne
那么
is
陡哎。
beautiful, and there are so many beautiful parks you can visit that are beautifully maintained, very pretty, and they all free. There's no admission tickets to go into these parks, or you might, if you feel generous, you can make a donation to support the local business or the park, but in general it's free to visit. So that's about the nature and the parks I love about living in Australia. And then the fifth one is the convenience. I talk about the small time difference between Australia and China. There is also other, might be a bit invisible convenience that people are not thinking of when you think about, I want to move overseas, which country should I pick? I would say pick Australia because there are so many flights operating between the major cities, let's say Shanghai, Beijing, between Sydney and Melbourne. I will take Melbourne as an example. So I live in Melbourne. There are daily flights operating between Melbourne to Shanghai, which is a huge convenience. There is direct flight. The direct flight is only about 10.5 hours from Melbourne to Shanghai, and from Shanghai you can basically either take high-speed train or take another flight to go to all the other major cities in China. That's a big convenience, especially if you still have family and friends living in China and you live in Australia. When you need it to go back and visit them, or if there's any family emergency you need to go back to attend to your parents, having daily flights between Melbourne or Sydney and Shanghai is a big convenience. If you live in the northern side of China, there's also about 3 to 4 direct flights from Melbourne to Beijing every week. So if you are thinking about moving overseas, this might be some of the factors you want to consider. Another big convenience is all the small electronics are adaptable. So all you need to do is buy a small adapter, then all the electronics you can bring from China are actually easy to use in Australia. Let's say you buy a small lamp, you bought electric toothbrush that you really like. You can continue to use them. All you need to do, just buy a small adapter. That is so easy. Or even simple things like a hair dryer. Let's say when I travel to Japan, I like the rice cooker, I like the hair dryer, but then there's too much difference in the electronics. I actually gave up on buying them. But if you go to China, you like the hair dryer, you like the rice cooker, you can bring them back to Australia and you can use them with no issue and no problem. As a matter of fact, my first rice cooker my mom bought me back in 2016 when I was preparing to come to Australia to study, only just broke down about 2 years ago. So that $20 rice cooker lasts me about 6 years. Such a good deal. Okay, that's number 5. And number 6 is probably my very, very personal opinion, is that Australia as a country, as a society, has really moved from being okay of smoking indoors or smoking in public, just smoking in general. You can smoke. There are still lots of smokers, but they are very strict. I wouldn't say policies, but people's awareness are so much more advanced. I see some of my colleagues, if they needed to smoke, they need to go outside of the office, and there has to be a certain distance away from. And in primary schools or high schools or childcare center, lots of the times you see them hide in a very small alley and smoke there. They can't, like no one, I've seen basically nobody smoke inside building or a shopping center or a train station or anything in Australia, which I love that because I was so sick of inhaling all the secondhand smoke when I was living in China. recently I went back to visit China. The smoking actually gone a lot better. People's awareness has advanced in bigger cities like Shanghai or Beijing, but in my hometown, which is a much smaller city, I actually seen people smoking inside of a Chinese restaurant, a hot pot restaurant, or inside a bar, a nightclub place, and you're just surrounded by the secondhand smoke, which I didn't really enjoy. It really irritates my throat at the same time. So if you were thinking about moving to Australia, there will be basically no secondhand smoking, which I love. And the last one I would like to talk briefly about today is the very easy application and process of having your parents come here to visit you. If you are living in Australia and your parents, your family are in China, there is a very easy process for online application. There's no interview needed, there's no health check needed. Your parents just need to submit some basic information to be able to apply a visiting visa to come to Australia to visit you, which they can stay up to 3 months' time. If you have become an Australian permanent resident, then you can apply another visiting visa for your parents, which requires a little bit of a health check for your parents. That visa allows your parents to stay in Australia for you full time, no need to leave for up to 12 months. This is extremely handy for people. Some of my other Chinese friends, they just recently became parents. They gave birth. They really wanted their parents to come here and stay and support them, help them look after the newborn. That way they apply for this family visiting visa, and that's for 12 months of time. Their parents can stay here and support them and help them. So that is another great convenience as well. I know some other countries, when you have your parents visiting, they might only be able to stay for a month or 3 months, a very short period of time, which is a bit different in Australia. Your parents can stay up to 12 months, and there is also a permanent residency pathway for your parents once you become a permanent resident yourself, which is another big topic. I guess I can make another video to talk about it. Just in all, these are the benefits and these are the things I really enjoy living in Australia. If you're thinking of moving overseas, right, do your research and then watch some other people's video and see what's their experience like living in America as a Chinese person or living in Europe, different countries. So I hope my video can be informative, can be helpful, can help you make decisions. And if you have any questions, anything I didn't cover, feel free to comment down below and I will try my best to get to all the questions. If there are enough questions to make another video, I will for sure make another video about it. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.